The prospect pool overviews are going to continue on today with the Buffalo Sabres. Now, the Sabres are an interesting case because they have been a team that has not been in the playoffs for a while. And obviously, the pool is still solid, but a lot of the guys who were in it that made it very good prior have either been traded or they have graduated up to the NHL. But there are still some good prospects here to discuss. Let's start off with the guy who, in my opinion, I think is the best of all of them, and that is Konsta Helenius. So he was born in Finland. He's 5'11", 190 pounds. He can play center and right wing. He played some of that in Rochester. Was drafted 14th overall in last year's draft. In 65 games played with Rochester this past year, his first pro year, he jumped straight from the SM Liga to the AHL, puts up 14 goals, 21 assists, 35 points. He is an all-around good two-way center. This guy has two-way capabilities and just two-way qualities, and that's a respectable first season in the American Hockey League. Again, you kind of forget with some of these prospects, it's their first ever taste of pro hockey. Like, they're not just going to come in there, unless if they're incredible, they're not going to come in there and be a point per game in the AHL. If they are, then they're in the NHL. So otherwise, I think Helenius had a respectable first season in the American Hockey League. And in my opinion, as of right now, there's some people who consider Devin Levi a prospect, but I do think that Helenius is going to be better than Devin Levi, and I'm higher than him than Levi, but maybe that's just me. But Helenius has a lot to look forward to, and we could possibly see him in the NHL as soon as next season. Noah Ostlund then up next, spent time with the Sabres this past year, but was born in Sweden. He is 5'11", 174 pounds. He can play center and left wing. And this past year with Rochester, had 45 games played, 36 points, played 8 games with Buffalo, however, midway through the season. You can tell that his numbers aren't that great, -6. But again, Buffalo wasn't a very good team. Honestly, I like Ostlund a lot. He has very talented, just like overall skating. He had a really good first year in the AHL, first full year that is, and it was so good that he got called up to Buffalo at a point in the year. So again, I think that's somebody who we could see in the lineup next season. Again, was a 16th overall pick back in 2022. Spent some time with Drew Gardens and Vajko HC, which is in the SHL, where he put up some good numbers there too. So again, this guy has the numbers and the things to back it up. It's just a matter of, is there a spot for him in the NHL this coming year? And I think that's the question that we're going to be asking ourselves. I don't know. That center court for Buffalo is looking pretty solid right now, especially if Konsta Helenius makes the jump. So we could see Ostlund move over to the wing maybe at points. But again, he did get a sample size last year with Buffalo. I don't know if that's worth it, but let's see what the training camp is. If he has a good training camp, then there's a pretty decent chance that he will be in the NHL next season. So looking into one of the first prospects who was drafted in this past year's draft. Again, I know I could have gone a different direction with this, but I do want to cover more players who were drafted in this past year's draft. But Matus Jan Kucherik, if I'm saying that right, is so good that he doesn't even have stats on HockeyDB. Was a 4th-round pick by Buffalo. He is from Italy, so that's interesting. He's 6'4", 181 pounds. He's a center. This past year with the Slava Praha U20, so he is from Italy, but he did play on teams in Slovakia. Had 25 games played, had 16 points, which is solid. He has flashy puck skills. He's actually off to the USHL. He will be playing in the United States Hockey League next season, so we're going to see him in North America for a bit. But I did pull up his draft guide because, again, with some of these later round picks, it's kind of difficult to gauge the market with them. So I did pull up his draft guide, as you can see here. He's a tall, mobile forward with flashy puck skills and defensive intensity, turning moments into dynamic ability into gamely staples that could make him a breakout prospect. So there's some tools here in his toolbox that could make this guy a steal in the 4th round. It's going to take some time, though, as obviously a lot of them do. But he's actually, obviously, heading to the USHL, so we're not expecting to see him in either Rochester or Buffalo or even the ECHL team that's escaping me right now. I should know that since I'm like a ECHL reporter, but For him, he's definitely going to take time to develop, as a lot of these prospects are going to, but he's somebody for me who covering and just kind of doing research on, he does interest me a little bit. Has really good vision. I think everything here definitely could use some improving on, but there are some things in his tool set, like his size, for example, that really could go a long way for him. So that's Kucheruk. He's an interesting case for sure. Up next to the guy they selected in the top 10 in this past year's draft, once again, Radim Murtka. And this is a defenseman that I really do think Buffalo needed in their system. This guy is a big hitting. He is a heavily defensive defenseman, which is something that the Sabres definitely need. Obviously, he was born in Czechia. He is a right shot defenseman, so that makes things very interesting. He's 6'6", 218 pounds, was drafted 9th overall, and this past year with the Seattle Thunderbirds played 43 games, had 35 points. Again, everything that I've seen from Murtka is he is a defensive beast. He might honestly be the best defensive defenseman in this draft, maybe even besides Matthew Schaefer. Like, he might be the best overall, but there was a ton of excitement from Murtka for sure. So I did pull up his draft guide as well. He is a towering minute-eating defenseman on track to become an NHLer. He has top 4 skill, sense, and pace some nights, but he'll have to find them every night to maintain effectiveness. So the thing that I'm seeing from that, the problem that we're seeing with Murtka is the inconsistency. Maybe there's some struggles there in his game a little bit with staying consistent with how he plays, but again, there's a lot of hype here around this kid. You look at his tool grades, like, he has really good physicality. That's the best thing that he has. He's got great hockey sense, a good passing, he's got an all right shot. Again, just everything from this guy seems like he's going to be a lockdown defensive defenseman on the back end, and that's something that Buffalo really needs. You look at that right side, it's not the greatest in the world. You need a partner for Dahlin, Power, etc. So getting a guy like Murtka, who is going to take some time, he's probably going to go maybe even over to college next year. If not, he might take the jump to just go right to Rochester like Hellenius did. But to be honest with you, I think Murtka, of all the prospects in here, besides maybe Hellenius, I kind of think he's the closest to NHL ready just because of his size and his overall defensive game. He's really hard to not like, honestly. Now we're taking a look at a guy who the Sabres organization is very excited or high upon for this guy to pan out. We have Adam Kleber here. He was born in Minnesota. He's 6'6" as well. 225 pounds. He is a right shot defenseman, was drafted in the 2nd round in last year's draft, had 5 points in 33 games played this past year with Minnesota Duluth. He did play in the World Junior Championships for Team USA. So I do want to take a second here to read an excerpt from a Hockey News prospect pool mid-season future watch about Kleber, because I feel like he's kind of a prospect in the Sabres organization that many forget about. And I think you look at him and his size, and you look at Murtka with his size, if everything pans out, which knowing Buffalo, it might not, I honestly do think that these two players could make a real impact. So let's read this excerpt here real quick. When Adams watched Kleber at this year's World Juniors, he had noticed the youngster has taken massive steps over the last year. He looks like a guy that is getting better and better with the puck. He needs to work on his puck skills and work on his feet, but he has a big, long frame, and he handled himself really well at the World Juniors. Adams is impressed with Kleber's play in his first year at Minnesota Duluth. He's done a really nice job in college as a true freshman. You don't see comments that often about players and prospects, or GMs and prospects. Obviously, you'll see it every now and then with the big name guys, but for somebody like Kleber, who was a 2nd-round pick, I think seeing that from Adams, I think makes things really interesting, and it shows that the Sabres have a lot of trust in Kleber becoming a legitimate guy in the organization. And obviously, what's ironic is his pick was traded a couple of times. That's kind of cool. But anyways, it's kind of wild. Like, you look at these two guys in Murtka and Kleber, they're both 6'6". Buffalo really is making that blue line one of the tallest we may ever see. And if both of them pan out, it's going to be absolutely unbelievable to watch it. All right, I got to kind of explain myself here a little bit, because I do think that Devin Levi, in a lot of cases, is not considered a prospect by many people. He's played 39 games in the Sabres organization. However, that's over 3 seasons. He's played 39 games. So obviously, let's just get into this real quick. He was born in Montreal, Quebec. He's a goalie, 6 foot, 192 pounds, was drafted in the 7th round by Florida in 2020, was obviously acquired by the Sabres in the Sam Reinhart trade. He played 42 games this past year with Rochester, was 25, 13, and 6, had a .919, did play 9 games with Buffalo, but as you can tell, 2 and 7, a .872, a 4.12 goals against average. And as you look at these numbers as they've progressed, again, 7 games played in 22-23, he looked great in that 7-game stretch, which made a lot of people come out and say, oh, this guy's going to win the Calder. He could go via Vezina finalist. And I'm like, it's 7 games. Let's kind of brace ourselves here. And then as a result, the next season had a .899, was 10-8-2, a winning record, but still the underlying numbers were not that great. And then this past year played 9 games, a .872, a 4.12, and a 2-7 record. It's kind of telling me, I really do think they kind of rushed him way too fast into the NHL. When he played that 23-game year, he didn't even have any time in Rochester beforehand, in previous seasons before. So he basically came from Northeastern University, where he put up phenomenal numbers, by the way, a .933, a .952 in about 60, 70 games with Northeastern. That's very respectable numbers. But at the same time, goalies are a weird thing. They take time to develop, and I feel like the same thing can be said for Devin Levi. I feel like the Sabres kind of rushed him in there too fast and gave him too much time in the NHL, and as a result, it's kind of stalled his development a little bit. But he's had some very good years of Rochester, a .927 last year in 26 games played, a .919 in 42 games played. I think it's just a matter of time before Levi comes up and comes into the NHL and just explodes. He just becomes that goalie that the Sabres have needed for so long. I know Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen's on a contract that spans over, I think, at least 3 more years, but Levi is also signed to an $812K contract for the next 2 seasons. So I don't know, to be honest with you. I think Levi really does have a chance to get into the NHL. I think he is going to next year and play more than 9 games. At that point, I will lay my foot down and say, no, he's no longer a prospect. But Levi is a very interesting case because, again, it's been 3 years almost since he's played those 7 games, and we haven't seen the Levi that we thought we were going to see in that offseason following. So, again, he's 23 years old. He's a goaltender. I'm not concerned about it whatsoever, but he is somebody in this case where I felt it was right to give an update on him for sure. Now, quickly going through and looking at some of the other prospects in the pool, you have Anton Wahlberg, first and foremost, had 30 points this past year in 63 games played with Rochester. A solid first season with the AHL club. He's a center, obviously. I think that's very respectable, to be honest with you. You also have Isaac Rosen, who was drafted 4 years ago at this point, has played games up with Buffalo in both seasons in the last 2 years, has put up phenomenal numbers in Rochester. 55 points in 61 games last year, 50 points in 67 games played last year as well. I think, this guy really should be in the NHL next season with the numbers he's put up in Rochester. It's just a matter of giving him that time in the NHL club. David Bedkowski put up some great numbers with Owen Sound. Had 7 points in 35 games played this past year. He feels like more of a defensive defenseman. I got to be careful how I say this guy's name. Vesvolod Komarov had 18 points in 69 games played with Rochester in his first year in pro hockey. Spent 4 seasons in the QMJHL with Quebec, and Drummondville won 2 QMJHL championships. So Komarov, a 2022 draft pick. I don't think he's that great, but we'll see obviously how that goes. And then Samuel Milosh as well, another goaltending prospect, had a .900 in 51 games played with the Huskies and actually put up some solid numbers in the playoffs as well. He's a little ways away, though, from even being considered in the NHL. So that then brings me to my prospect rankings. Now, I do need to point out an error in this graphic. I meant to swap Komarov and Kucheruk, so I apologize for that. They should be just rotated between each other, but the lineup goes as follows. You have Hellenius at number 1. Maybe I'm too high on him. I have Levi there with an asterisk because I think that some people don't consider him a prospect. I kind of do. I think that he's somebody who I feel like is worth giving an update on as a Sabres prospect, even though he has played a lot of games. Murcutt, 3. I think that he's the best defenseman of anybody they have. Ostlund, I'm excited for at 4. Rosen at 5. And then, obviously, you have the rest of the pool. You have Wahlberg, Kleber, Kucheruk should be at 8. And then Milosh and then Komarov there at number 10. So the overall Sabres prospect pool, definitely not as strong as it's been in previous years. I feel like the Sabres team, we'll see if they can make the playoffs this year, but overall it's looking like it might be another year of picking in the top 15, so I guess we'll see what happens there. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below on the Buffalo Sabres prospect pool. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe down below if you're new. We have the Calgary Flames prospect pool coming up tomorrow. But thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.